ever since my wife and mom had the volcano cake last night. I was very sad, but that's all right. Okay, here we are. It's the DFS Strategy Show, NBA style, on Thanksgiving Saturday. It's rivalry weekend for the college football. My alma mater won yesterday. That was very nice. I got to watch that. Adam, what did your school have a football team? I know they had a basketball team.
They have a football team. Yeah, they're like D3. I didn't go to a single football game the entire time I was there.
Well, that's fine. They won a national championship while I was in mine, so I went to a few games, couple Rose Bowls, all of that. University of Washington, go Huskies there. But now that I'm out on the East Coast, it's rather difficult to watch these games. It's a little they're on late because they generally are kicking off at 7 o'clock or 7:30 on the West Coast, which makes it really late on the East Coast, which is not really my style to stay up that late, but there we are. All right. Was there any, as I'm getting a few more things out here, was there any big injury news from last night? We have quite a few of our teams in action today are on back-to-backs. Indiana, Philadelphia, Atlanta. I think Atlanta, Charlotte, and Milwaukee are all on back-to-backs.
Not that I've seen.
All right. We've got, let me get this tweet in, and then we'll be set to go. The Fred Van Elite Fan Club contest was very, very nice. We had filled two of them, one with the 150 and one with 100. So we had one winner that had the Osmo avatar that took first place. So you always got to reach out to me. Either if you're already a member, you can do that through Slack, direct message me so I can find you again and make sure you get your 30 days. And if you're on Twitter, just tweet me and we'll hook it up there. But in the meantime, Adam, we have 4 games. So this is the smallest Saturday slate we have outside of maybe one in the spring. I don't remember them being this small after Thanksgiving, but here we are. We have a 5 o'clock game, which is not on the main slate. Yahoo and FanDuel do have some all-day contests, but they're rather small prize pools. And then we have a 3-game main slate. There is a 7 o'clock game, which is the Pacers at Philadelphia. And then we have 2 8 o'clock games, which will be Atlanta at Houston and Charlotte out at Milwaukee. And because a lot of these teams are on back-to-backs and we have some people that are sick and some injury questions, that will give us some things to talk about here. The one thing you will want to remember also is we do have Live Before Lock that will be at 6 o'clock tonight with Fast Eddie Fear. Key thing on a slate like this, there's not quite as much edge as you may usually get. This would be potentially a fun one for me. I'm going to be playing a few lineups over on Yahoo, our presenting sponsor for this show, and not so much on the other sites. I usually like to hand build my Yahoo lineups, but they do have CSV edit and upload now. So the trick for that, which I learned last night on their magnificent contest, that 1 didn't fail, and 2 they added $25,000 to the prize pool. I was talking with Nolan Kelly, you know him from our NHL shows and some NFL content. He's also our editor-in-chief. And he said, hey, if you put all of your, because you have to edit it by contest, which is a little frustrating, but he said if you put them all on one file, you can edit it, drop it in, and you're good to go. So that is one trick. If you're going to be in a bunch of contests, you may want to do a little legwork and create one CSV master file for yourself. But I had 14 lineups in that contest. I cashed 3 for $30, 1 for $100, so I made $50, Adam. Not too shabby, considering I put 13 of those in with about 90 seconds to go and made a lineup with just late game contests and just kept hitting enter until the contest locked. So I learned how to use their CSV upload last night. How did you do in that contest? Did you play?
Yeah, I played. Made a little bit, so it was better than losing.
Always better than losing. Someone who made a lot, though, was the aforementioned Nolan Kelly. He got 9th. I don't know how many lineups he did, but 9th place was worth, it was a tie. I think it was $1,667. But if he max entered that paid for everything, and then everything else he cashed would have been his profit. So he had a very nice night over there.
If he max entered it, he would have that way more than paid for everything. It was 25 max.
Oh, it was only 25 max. Oh, I did not realize that.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have just. Bad on
Yeah, I was
me. I
confused
thought
when
it
he
was
told me he played
150. Yeah. Good job, Nolan. I'm sure he max entered that. So yeah, he racked up the cash last night. He also said hockey has been relatively easier to cash over there as well. It's a little different style and build, so we have a lot of hockey content for that. So if you want to dabble there, there will be a hockey show this afternoon as well. But we're going to talk basketball. So our first game that we have, Adam, this is going to be showdown or single slate on the sites that have that, and then dabbling slightly with FanDuel and with Yahoo. But it's Denver at Sacramento. We have Denver favored on the road by 4. It's a 206 over under. Of course, the first question we have, if you're building the single lineups, what are you going to do with Nicolai Yogesh?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to contextualize with no salaries, obviously, but Jokic is the priority if you can afford him. Obviously, he's had some issues this year, but still a productive player, should play around 32, 33 minutes, assuming this game's competitive. The game itself shouldn't be that appealing from a DFS standpoint, I don't think. Two of the slower teams in the league. Denver's good defensively. Sacramento is not. So the edge would go to the Denver guys, and obviously that starts with Jokic.
Yeah, that is the best analysis we have. I mean, it's a slow game. You're going to be splitting a lot of hairs here. We'll have to see if there's anybody dinged up or resting. But if both, let's see. Still Marvin Bagley's going to be out for a little bit with his thumb. Rashawn Holmes is back in action. Bogdan Bogdanovic is dealing with this sore hamstring, but he has been playing not quite as many minutes as we would want. But this is just going to kind of be a tough one. Both these teams are kind of at full strength now, which makes it a little bit tricky. If you want to play for a Denver healthy victory, then it's relatively straightforward. They have a lot of direct backups still within their rotation, so you can kind of figure that out and say, all right, well, if I don't play Jokic, I want to play Plumlee, because if Jokic isn't having a great game, it's probably because he's out early and Plumlee is in there. You can do the same thing with some of their guards, etc., for 2 or 3 of your guys to get some discount plays and then put in the studs around that. That would be a basic strategy for the single game slate. Anything you want to mention for Sacramento?
Not really. Just a really, really tough spot for them, obviously. Hield should play the most minutes out of the group. He's going to get plenty of shots up, but it is a tough spot. Bogdanovic, behind him should be probably the second highest usage guy. All
right. Now, let's have some fun. We're on to the main slate here. Again, three games, 6 teams in the player pool. Our relaxed pace will still get us relatively quickly through this, but reminder, at 11 o'clock, we do have the NFL DFS strategy show. That will be Chris Randone and Sal Vitri knocking out the final show of 6 this week for the DFS strategy, and then we will have, I believe we have On the Contrary today. I saw it on the schedule, but I didn't see if we had a guest host, and it was because it was the holiday. So we may have people traveling, but double check that one. That one should come out. Starting off with our first game, Adam, we have the Pacers at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is coming off of a back-to-back. They sat Al Horford last night. This will be just the second back-to-back that we have seen Joel Embiid play. He played 35 minutes last night. Let's start off with Embiid. The Pacers are basically back to full health themselves. They've got outside of Oladipo, they've got Brogdon back. They've got I blanked on his name last night too. The small forward that used to play for Charlotte. Why can I not think of his name?
Jeremy Lamb.
Thank you. Jeremy Evans was in my head, and I knew that wasn't even close. Well, relatively close. I don't know who Jeremy Evans is. Maybe, perhaps some potential Indianapolis Colt at some point. And my holiday brain is replaced the Galaxy brain at this point. So, talk to me about how you want to approach Embiid. We're either going to know if he's in or he's out. Where do you think his minutes may lie on this back-to-back?
If he's in, I'm going to treat it like he's in and give him the normal 32, 33 minutes that I usually do. I just don't really know how else to handle it. Obviously, they could kind of rest him in game, but normally they just sit him. So I don't really know why they would play him, play him but not play him close to his full run. So I'm kind of just hoping he's ruled out, so you don't have to guess at it. But I'm going to treat it more or less like it's a normal game if he's in.
All right, I just want to let me call up his game log. Going off the top of my mind, I think it was 27 or 28 minutes on his other back-to-back, 25.7 minutes on that other back-to-back. He dropped 20 and 10. So, we know he is a phenomenal per-minute guy. Just looking at recent game logs, the only sort of duds he had would have been against Toronto. He played 32 minutes. That was the game where he was 0 for 11 from the field. Did not score, I believe, for the first time in his career. So that is a very much the anomaly. And then the other game that wasn't great was a blowout against Cleveland where he played only 22 minutes. Otherwise, he has flirted with the 50 fantasy point plateau in all of those games, if not gotten well into it. So he is someone that would be in our plans if he is going to be active. As we branch away from him, I think we can say that there's not going to be a lot of discount dandies coming from the Philadelphia side. Adam, last night we saw Furkan Korkmaz be adequate for his near minimum salary. We saw a ton of people going on to Matisse Thybulle, who is not the best fantasy play. He does not like to shoot the ball. The funny thing is, he is just more deferential. He does have a three-point shot, and he was capable of scoring in college, and he just doesn't take shots for this team. As an example, what he has, like, I'm eyeballing it, 60 shots on the season, maybe something around there. Not very many. Starting from the ne'er-do-wells, the understudies, is there anything from Philadelphia that you want to keep tabs on?
It entirely depends on Embiid. Like, if Embiid's in, then I don't think anybody on Philly is more than a secondary option against what's been the fourth most efficient defense in the league, a bottom 10 pace team in Indiana. But if Embiid's out, then you get a bump for the entire team, and a lot of these guys would end up being underpriced. Without Embiid on the floor, Horford's averaged 1.28 points per minute this year. Harris is at 1.19. Simmons at 1.13. So all of those guys would see a nice bump if Embiid sits, and it still wouldn't be a great matchup, but they're all priced for Embiid to be in. So naturally they would all be a bit underpriced, especially in the context of a 3-game slate. So it really entirely depends on Embiid. If him or Richardson are out, I would expect Korkmaz gets the start again. If they're both out, then you should see more run once again for Ennis and Thybulle as well.
All right, we do have our ownership updated for those of you playing along at home that do have access to this. It was posted 7 minutes ago. This is for the early run, but you want to keep an eye on it because it does include the full slate at this point, which has the Sacramento. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't. Nice. Oh, it has the Atlanta-Houston game. Perfect. So we're all set. This is the main slate. I was on the right page. Well, there's some interesting things that we'll get to, but Philadelphia not really popping in most of these. Neither is Indiana. As you move into Simmons or Harris or Horford, do those guys have appealing matchups? Let's just assume that Embiid is in fact in.
No, not really. It's a slow Indiana team. It's a good Indiana defense. And if Embiid's in, then obviously all of these guys are taking a hit in terms of per minute production. So they're not that appealing to me if Embiid's in.
All right, not that appealing to the crowd either. The most popular guys on DK coming in, 30% for Brogdon, 30% for Harris, 22% for Embiid's, bonus at 22, Turner at 21, Warren at 21. Brogdon 7,300 on DraftKings. That is still a very reasonable price point. He has not been knocking anybody's socks off after returning from his layoff, but we know the talent is there. He is 8,600 on FanDuel, coming in at 14%. And then over here on presenting sponsor Yahoo, he is 34, so fairly priced, coming in at 14%. He's kind of where we want to start with the Pacers. How are you feeling about Baragi Pants tonight?
He's one of the guys I really like from Indiana. It's a tough spot for the Pacers too. As I mentioned, Indiana's been the fourth most efficient defense. Philadelphia has been the third most efficient defense. So this is a game that features two really good defenses. Philly has played at a faster pace than Indiana has. Still not a actually they played at like the same pace. Philly's dropped off as the season's gone on. So two slower paced teams, two good defensive teams, but the salaries on Indiana are really appealing. Brogdon dropped from 7,900 yesterday on DraftKings down to 7,300. He has averaged 1.3 DraftKings points per minute this season. So that's pretty clearly just too cheap of a price tag for him. In 3 games since coming back from injury, he's played 30, 30, and 39 minutes. The 39 was in overtime yesterday, so it was 34 in regulation. But in both of those games where he had played 30 minutes, there was a blowout as well. So I think expecting 33 or 34 minutes from Brogdon is reasonable. And if you just assume his season average of 1.3 points per minute, even if you take a little bit off of that, it's clearly solid production at his price tag.
All right. As you continue along, at this point, just kind of sticking with the guards, with everybody back in action here, McConnell, Holiday, other Holiday, I don't even really feel comfortable having them in my lineups, which is why I'm doing more hand building on Yahoo today rather than creating a player pool and doing the mass multi-entry. Is there anything we can wring out from the secondary guards here?
I don't really think so. It's obviously just not that appealing of a game. Like in terms of pace, the other 2 games on this slate are way more appealing. They have plenty of blowout risk, but they're at least going to be fast-paced games. You know, you have, I think, secondary options in Lamb and Warren, but it's not as appealing. Warren is 4,800 on DraftKings, so I think that's worth pointing out. You should get around 32, 33 minutes from him, and that's just a really cheap price tag where we're seeing basically the entire Indiana team priced down for their tough matchup against Philadelphia, it seems.
All right. Rounding things out, forwards, before we get to the pivot guys, let's focus on, I don't know, they're all Lamb. You've got, I can't even sell them up to set you up, Adam. That's how I think Sabonis is
one of the best plays. I think Sabonis is a great play.
Okay, let's do Sabonis and Turner because if we look at just their other wings, they're not that great. But let's talk Sabonis and Turner since they have a little more upside available to them.
Yeah, I mean, Sabonis has just been a monster all season long. It doesn't really matter who's on the floor for him. Overall this year, he's averaged 1.24 DraftKings points per minute. He doesn't really take a hit no matter who's on the floor. He's still going to contribute in a variety of ways, and his price tag came down again. He had gone from 8,100 to 7,900. Now he's at 7,700 on DraftKings, and played 42 minutes in the overtime game last night. We've been seeing him play 35, 36 minutes a night in competitive games. So the minutes should be there. The price tag's reasonable. I would say him and Brogdon are the 2 priorities for me here. And then, TJ Warren is value or Miles Turner is value or fine, but not priorities like Brogdon and Sabonis are.
Yeah, Warren's coming in as the better play on DraftKings at 4,800. He's 57 on FanDuel, 19 on Yahoo. I would probably roll the dice with one of the $10, $11, or $12 guys on Yahoo just for the price savings at this point. Kind of projecting him for, I don't know, fantasy point per minute, more or less. Or well, not more or less, actually a fantasy point per minute. Then your question becomes, where are his minutes? There just feels like there's a lot more capable people that could end up guarding him from a Philadelphia standpoint where he's not going to have a lot of free reign on fast breaks where he generally racks up a lot of his points. So DraftKings probably the only place I have any interest in him. Shall we move on to our second game, which is also our second to last game of the slate out?
Yes, please.
Get us out of here. I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. I remember those ads. That was a bad reality TV show. Bad. It was like Big Brother, but in the jungle. So it was kind of have you ever seen that one?
I remember like the phrase. I remember the name of the show. I never saw it.
It was horrible. I think I made it through an episode and a half. It was a Survivor Big Brother mashup that had literally no point other than D and potentially E-list celebrities had a moment.
Right.
Charlotte at Milwaukee. A couple teams here on the old back-to-back. We have a 227 over-under here for this game. Milwaukee favored by 13. Giannis Antetokounmpo going to be one of the highest projected guys tonight. He's going to be up there vying with James Harden. Let's start there. If you're counterbalancing those two, both teams are favored by a dozen or more. They're both at home. Would you go with Giannis or would you go with Harden?
Whichever's cheaper. I think Giannis, if they're even similarly priced, I think Giannis gets the edge. It's a really good matchup against the Charlotte team that has allowed the second most points in the paint this season. Giannis is averaging 1.93 DraftKings points per minute this year. There's tons of blowout risk here, obviously, with a terrible Charlotte team playing at Milwaukee, but there's not really much you can do about it on this slate where you have a really unappealing game in the Philadelphia game as far as fantasy points go. And then you have Atlanta at Houston with a 13.5 point spread. You have Charlotte at Milwaukee with a 13-point spread. In general, I think that trying to predict blowouts isn't really that useful, but especially when your alternative is another blowout. So I'm more than happy to get to Giannis here and just assume he's the reason that they destroy Charlotte today.
All right. He is a $200 discount on DraftKings from Harden. So they're basically a toss-up there from a salary standpoint. Eric Bledsoe has been decent, losing minutes here and there to George Hill and slash, I don't know, blowout slash whatever, DiVincenzo. DiVincenzo actually interesting on DraftKings. He is a point guard, small forward eligible. He is getting in the mid-20s per minutes, even with Middleton coming back. Middleton has played 2 games since returning from injury. He has been coming off the bench. He played 23 minutes last night, 20 minutes in his return against Atlanta after being off for the better part of 2.5 weeks. I'm assuming Middleton will probably continue to come off the bench for around 20 minutes tonight. Branching away from Giannis, looking at Bledsoe, DiVincenzo, Hill, Middleton, etc., the rest of the guards and wings, does anything seem interesting against Charlotte?
Not on a bigger slate, I would say no. On this slate, I still think that like Bledsoe's interesting. He played 26 minutes last night, which is pretty annoying. He's back to his minutes being all over the place because George Hill is back, Middleton's back. So you have to deal with that. But he does at least still have that 28 to 30-minute upside. He has been really productive when he's on the floor this year. And Charlotte is a really bad defensive team. So I think Bledsoe is still a perfectly fine option. I would say that I like Brogdon at 7,300 a little more than Bledsoe at 6,600, for example. But I would say Giannis number 1 here, then Bledsoe. Brook Lopez is fine. Obviously, a nice matchup for him. DiVincenzo is an okay value. All these guys are more valuable, too, if Middleton were to sit on the second half of the back-to-back.
Yep. And then the other guy that's a little bit dinged up is Sterling Brown. I'm not really interested in playing him, but if he is out, that does open 15 to 18 minutes as well that can be divvied up amongst those other plays there. Not much exciting here. Let's move on to Charlotte. Of course, everything kind of starts with the guards for Charlotte. We saw Cody Zeller out he's missed 2 games in a row now, I think. Let me see here. Yeah, didn't play Friday, missed the second game with a sore hip. So we saw Bismack Biyombo actually be a factor. If Zeller is out again, Biyombo very much in play. His price is ticking up around the industry, so it's not quite the upside that he had when he was low priced. Let's start off there with Biyombo. Let's assume Zeller is out. How do you feel about Biyombo, who should be locked into 30 to 34 minutes?
I'm not entirely sure that's the case.
Okay.
The one thing to keep in mind, like obviously he can play that many minutes, or he could. The one thing to keep in mind with these last 2 games that he started and played 30-plus minutes is they were both against Andre Drummond and the Pistons. Mm-hmm. Now you're talking about Brook Lopez and the Bucks, a center who isn't a traditional center in the sense like he's not posting anyone up. He's not grabbing rebounds. He's basically just hanging out around the 3-point line offensively. There's no reason that Charlotte can't play smaller here if they want to and go with PJ Washington or Marvin Williams at the 5 and take minutes away from Biyombo. So I think that Not saying that necessarily
Hmm.
has to happen or is going to happen, but knowing that it's a lot more likely that that happens in this game than in either of the previous games against Detroit, I think it's important when you talk about a 3-game slate and potentially finding some edges. If Biyombo gets the start here, people are going to just flock to him because he's played 33, 34 minutes in 2 straight games. He's been really productive in both games. And obviously he can do it again here. But if you kind of try and create an edge for yourself by saying, okay, well, what happens if this game plays smaller, which it certainly can? That would be more minutes at the 5 for PJ Washington and Marvin Williams. It would be more minutes on the wing for potentially Malik Monk. You could see like Martin or Bacon get back into the rotation. Not enough to where they would matter for DFS, but that's how the rotation can go to where instead of getting 34 minutes from Biyombo, suddenly you're getting like 24 and you're getting more productive minutes from Marvin Williams and PJ Washington. So I think that's something to at least keep in mind. It's a way you can differentiate and just hope that the game goes, according to that instead of according to what the majority of the field is doing.
Excellent call out there. Washington's price ticking down just a little bit here. Well, I guess I haven't really looked at him in a few days, so it's about where it should be. He has not really gotten into foul trouble the last couple games, which has been helpful for him. But the guy I do like, as you mentioned, Marvin Williams, you can get him at small forward on DraftKings. He is 3,400. He should play 20 minutes. The question becomes, as Adam pointed out, if it's really not with Biyombo, he will have more scoring and responsibility and potential rebounds. If he's just in there filling minutes, it's not that great of a matchup for him. So his role is not as exciting from a fantasy perspective. And this was one of the teams last year where you could say, all right, is this going to be a Marvin Williams game? Is this a Cody Zeller game? Etc. We're not really seeing that this year. I'm not entirely sure what has changed other than no Lamb, no Walker, etc. The makeup of their team has changed quite a bit, but we'll have to see what comes to fruition with regards to that. Looking at the Charlotte guards, you've got Rozier Bridges. Well, Bridges, I guess, is a wing, but Rozier Bridges and then Devontae Graham. These guys are going to be roster filler. They're reasonable plays. I would guess I would lean a little bit towards Graham or Rozier in this one. But to me at this point, I think they're kind of interchangeable, as is their price on most sites. Any highlights you have for the Hornets backcourt?
I think the price tag on Graham at 6,500 is really appealing. He should play. I mean, if Charlotte does hang in this game, you should get 35 minutes out of Graham, and he's around the fantasy point per minute guy at only 6,500. So I do like that salary. Obviously, it's a really, really good Milwaukee team defensively, but it is also a really fast Milwaukee team. So a lot of possessions for Charlotte. I think outside of the front court, Graham's my favorite guy. And then again, in tournaments, I like the idea of taking some shots at Marvin Williams, at PJ Washington. And hoping that this game goes smaller.
Yep, we have. That's forward. Where is guard on Yahoo? You've got Graham at 26, Rozier at 21. A little bit better price there for Rozier, but Graham is still fairly priced in the context of the entire slate, and does carry the upside, as Adam mentioned. Final game of the night. Oh boy, this has been a slate that feels like it's been taking us forever to get through, Adam, because there's not anything exciting to talk about since we've been on air for 22 minutes.
I was gonna say any show where the most excitement in my voice is talking about Marvin Williams is normally not a great slate.
Yes, an excellent indicator there. Let's start off with Atlanta. Trae Young, outstanding talent, but not as good as potentially some other players that he was traded for. Am I right, Adam?
I didn't hear the question.
Oh, Trae Young versus your sock man.
Oh, versus Luka.
Yeah, is he close? Is there disappointment? Should Atlanta just be happy that they have a nice talent here, even though they may have missed out on a generational talent?
I mean, yeah, Trae Young's fantastic. So I saw someone, I can't remember who it was. Someone tweeted yesterday about, is the Luka trade going to go down as worse than the Michael Jordan or passing on Michael Jordan? And
oh God, not even close. Right?
I don't know. Luka's pretty damn good, but anyway, their
Sam
point.
Bowie was not very good.
Yeah, their point beyond. Well, and they're not talking about Trae Young. They're talking about. Sorry, they were talking about passing on Luka. They weren't talking about the trade. They were talking about Ayton and Bagley.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
But then they followed it up by saying, and also then the Hawks traded Luka, and it's kind of crazy for the Hawks. Like, you got Trae Young, who's this phenomenal player, plus you got a pick, and it's still just not even close. Like, you wish you had Luka.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He's very, very good. Very, very good. Would not hate to have him on my team. So starting off, potential injuries here. So Clint Capella is sick. He is listed as doubtful. I'm guessing he probably doesn't play. I don't think they really need him in this one. Daniel House Jr. also dealing with an illness. He's kind of marginalized, but that is, additional minutes that go around, or shot attempts, more importantly, from the Houston side, that go around for a few guys. So I'm just going to kind of assume that Capella is out for this one. That does not mean I want to play Tyson Chandler in any shape or form, even on the 3-game slate. Chandler is averaging, I don't know, 0.5 fantasy points per minute, something like that. It's not good. He hasn't been playing very many minutes, and even if he gets the start, I would be shocked to see him to get more than 10 or 12 minutes. Let's not forget, he is 37 years old, I think, last time I looked, 38. So not interested in that. Talk to me about Young and Branch out there from the many guys getting minutes, but not a lot of production from Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, really fast-paced Houston team, so that's appealing. Young's salary is nice. I think that he's obviously a really good option. If Atlanta's able to hang in this game, there's a really good chance that it's because of Young. He's pretty much matchup proof, because if he's hitting his half-court shots, then nobody's defending that. It doesn't really matter. So I think that he's a really strong option. He's someone that I would definitely want in any game stacks I'm making of this game. I think you could pair him plus Westbrook plus some of the secondary pieces and pretty easily put together a pretty nice lineup. I think Young's a really good option. I think Parker is a pretty decent secondary option here because he is the secondary scorer on Atlanta. He does contribute rebounds and assists as well. He should benefit from the pace-up game. And then beyond that, you have a ton of wings that aren't really that appealing. Cam Reddish is only 3,700. He probably won't do much. Bembry's 4K. With it being a 3-game slate, you can take shots on those guys, but you shouldn't feel very good about it.
All right. Reminder over there, Yahoo, of course, is the sponsor of today's show. They are one of the most trusted names in fantasy sports and home to the weekly $200,000 baller for NFL. Their top prize, $20,000. They now have CSV upload and edit features if you're looking to play multiple lineups. And if you have not yet signed up, come in through our link. You can find that link on any of the primetime NFL articles or the daily cash building blocks article. Scroll down to the bottom. There's a section that has the promo code, the link, and instructions on how you can claim up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points by signing up and using the promo code OSMO with that link. With that link, I will drop that in the chat shortly. And as Laffy likes to say, Yahoo, the only place where you can be a baller. That's true, Adam. I think it's actually true. We'll see. Nolan was the baller there last night, making a ton of cash in NBA. But they do have a nice contest today. $20,000 baller, $4,000 to first place. That is the one I will be playing in. The max entry tonight, 68. Management fee, 12%. There we go. Anything else from the Hawks, Adam?
Just keep an eye out on news. Reddish was probable going into yesterday, so I don't know if maybe they set him on a back-to-back or something like that. If that were to happen, then Bembry would become more appealing.
All right. Atlanta. Chuckle. Houston, you've got Westbrook, you've got Harden. Let's just assume Capella is out. You've got PJ Tucker, been playing a little bit of center. He's sort of at an apex price for him. Don't really see his upside more than 30 fantasy points, but I think he's 5-1 on DK. I actually listed him as a cash viable option just because we don't have that many other choices, but I also put a little note in the cheat sheet saying, hey, 30 points is probably his upside. We really need him to get 20 or 25 at that point. Let's start off with Tucker and branch out from there. What are your thoughts, assuming that Capella is out?
Yeah, I like Tucker, assuming Capella's out. I think Houston as a whole is the team where I'd be getting the most players from because you have Capella doubtful. You also have Daniel House doubtful. So it really opens up minutes for these guys. In the last game without Capella against Miami, Tyson Chandler started. He played 7.5 minutes. Isaiah Hartenstein played 10 minutes off the bench. So you got a lot of small ball lineups from Houston. Tucker played 36.8 minutes. A lot of those were at center, which means more rebounding opportunities for him, obviously. And he really needs those to be productive. So I think that if Capella's out, it is a nice bump for Tucker for sure.
All right, dropping the link in the chat. I gotta say, how could I forget? I wrote the article. We also have the weekly article for the $200,000 baller, week 13. That's me highlighting some of the good point per dollar plays at each of the positions. You want to hear my thoughts on Pat Mahomes, Jameis Winston, Fournette, Henry, Christian McCaffrey, etc., etc. Check that one out. No surprise to anybody. Look to Jack Doyle this weekend. Eric Ebron placed on the injured reserve and T.Y. Hilton out. That's going to move Doyle into play on most sites. Adam, if you are splitting hairs between Harden and Westbrook with the price discount to Westbrook, we still got to lean towards Harden even on this short slate, correct?
No, I'm leaning Westbrook.
Okay, now we've got something. Here we go. Let's get the
especially
Adam
Capella
Sheriff special here.
Westbrook's almost $3,000 less expensive than Harden. His rebounding rate improves without Capella. 13.4% without Capella on the floor this year. I think it's about 10% with him out there. And then he's still the second highest usage guy on the team. Overall, without Capella on the floor, 1.5 DraftKings points per minute for Westbrook. Should play about 35 minutes if Atlanta can hang in this game. So yeah, I think that the price gap is big enough where I definitely prefer Westbrook.
Okay, and is there anyone else that you can suss out as a decent option here in the absence of assuming Capella is out?
Yeah, I think that Ben McLemore, Austin Rivers, Gary Clark, like these guys are all reasonable value options too, because assuming House doesn't play. In that last game, House played 34 minutes, McLemore played 19, Rivers played 19, Clark played 29. A really weird rotation for Clark, but he was a beneficiary for sure of that game going small. But if you take those 34 minutes from House out, I would expect 32 to 34 from McLemore. I would expect around 30 from Rivers. I think Clark gets into the mid 20s. So all of those guys at $3,500 or less become reasonable values. I think McLemore would be number one, Rivers number two, and then Clark number three.
All right. I think that's just about everything we can come up with on this slate. Let's look at a couple. Anything else from this game? We'll look at a couple global pricings here on each of the sites, and then we will be on with our afternoon.
As far as rules go, I think I wouldn't play. I'd probably set it at max 2 out of McLemore, Rivers, Clark.
Okay. That is a fair
But I'd be okay playing 2 of them for sure.
Okay. And I think I would do the same. I mean, it because then you're starting to look at the scrubby guys down the line for the Pacers. I would prefer somebody from this game. From Milwaukee, I would prefer somebody from this game. And then who knows what's happening in Charlotte. I would still prefer somebody from this game. I think I'd even put the Atlanta guys above anybody else, though I don't have a lot of trust in them. They have a lot of empty minutes there. So there we are on that. Okay, let's look at, we'll do DraftKings first here for pricing. Let me get my sort set up. All right, so you've got Harden and Giannis, $200 separating. You said let price dictate. I'm assuming for you, you may go Giannis and then try to get to Westbrook on your DK builds.
Yeah, I prefer Giannis for $200 less. I don't think there's a big difference between him and Harden. Like, I think Harden's a great play too. But yeah, I'd give the slight edge to Giannis.
Let's see, 6,700 Jabari Parker coming in nicely priced. This is a kind of a matchup that he could do well in. And Devontae Graham coming in at a similar price. If you were choosing between those two solid options, which would you take?
Slight edge to Graham.
All right, so let's look at FanDuel, then we'll wrap it up here with our friends at Yahoo. On FanDuel here, you are getting a $900 discount to Harden. Russell Westbrook is $9,000, so it's $2,500 discount to Harden. Harden is a $900 discount to Giannis. Westbrook is $2,500 discount to Harden. How would your build go? And you've got Trae Young in there at $9,800.
Yeah, I would give Harden a slight edge here over Giannis. I think that him and Westbrook are really similar, so it's really just a matter of roster construction, which one's easier to get to between the two of them.
All right, super cheapy. Sounds like Ben Mac LOL Moore is decent, 3,700. He's going to be one of the most popular options, literally across the board. DeAndre Hunter, Austin Rivers, Gary Clark. I can't think of Gary Clark without the Redskins and the Fun Bunch, Adam.
Yeah, that was before my time, but I do know what you're talking about.
All right. So similar choice here. Any call outs for FanDuel in general?
Basically the same guys as we talked about when we did the game by game breakdown. Like I don't see anyone that is a particularly great value on FanDuel that we hadn't mentioned as a good value in general.
All right, Yahoo. Assuming Embiid plays and he gets somewhere between 30 and 35 minutes, he is 42. How do you feel about him against Russell Westbrook at 42?
I would prefer Westbrook slightly just because I think that the game environment is more appealing. And if Capella's out again, you get a bump for Westbrook.
Westbrook, $4 less than Trae Young. Does Trae Young get the nods head-to-head?
No.
Malcolm Brogdon at 34. Is he one of your safer plays there in our 16-player pool?
Yeah, I think that's a really solid price tag for Brogdon.
One guy's going
to. The one thing, though, is that with Yahoo, you have so many really, really cheap guys that even though Brogdon's underpriced, I don't know how much I would actually get to just because it's easier to get stars and scrubs builds where I'm just really punting and then getting to Westbrook, Harden, Giannis, Embiid, whoever.
Yeah, your $10 plays on Yahoo: Macklemore, Rivers, Monk, Damian Jones, Cam Reddish, Gary Clark. Let's finish up here. Nicholas Batum.
He would be a potential beneficiary if that Charlotte game goes small. What he does when he's on the floor is anyone's guess.
Yeah, he has been. Wow, he has really been back for 8 games. I had not.
Really easy to not notice.
Wow, I literally had no idea. If you told me, I would have said, I bet he's been back for 2. I think because I remember him in this Detroit back-to-back here. So he's going to play about 25 minutes. As Adam mentioned, what he does, who knows? Here are his actual points. Not fantasy points, actual points. None in the last game. 13 in the one before that. Then 3, 3, 6, 3, 3, 3. Congratulations. Keep cashing them checks. All right, Adam, that is going to wrap it up for us. Reminder, we got all kinds of content coming out today as we wrap up the Thanksgiving holiday. You've got, in 40 minutes, you've got the NFL DFS strategy show. You should have On the Contrary later this afternoon. We're going to have a there's a full hockey slate, so you'll get that from Jake Hari on the YouTube channel. So hit that like button, hit that subscription, get that notification bell ringing because we're dropping more content. And then for those of you who are hoop heads, 6 o'clock tonight with Fast Eddie Fear, getting you down the home stretch on our 6-team player pool. With that, you can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS on Twitter. You can find me at EmacDFS, and it is Osmo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.